It's Fabienne, and I am joined by Susan Elford, who is here to share with you her story of what it's like to be on the road to leveraging a business from six figures and possibly being overwhelmed, and on the journey to seven figures with her life back and just creating a delicious life while creating impact. Susan, thank you so much for joining us to share your version of getting to a leveraged business.
Thank you so much, Fabienne. I'm so honored to be here, and I get asked to share my story, and it's so interesting that there's a story within the story. So 20 years ago, 2001, I had a baby. And isn't it interesting how these babies can turn your life upside down? And I was a successful PR corporate communications person working in an international energy company, and everything changed for me after I had her. And I couldn't see how I was going to continue this beloved career while being a mom and the primary caregiver in my home. And so I made the very difficult decision to resign from my job, and I started a business. So that was 20 years ago. And I was a very successful PR consultant for many, many years as a business owner. And I found that I was getting repeatedly, women in particular were coming to me asking, how did I do it? How did I get the clients? How could I show up and fully embrace being a mom while being hired? Did I hide the fact that I was a mom? It was interesting. The whole idea of being a female mother in business seemed to be a bit of a liability. Now, this is a while ago. And I found that over time, I was starting to enjoy those conversations more than the work I was doing. And eventually I felt called to hire a coach to figure out my next. And I found myself really drawn to wanting to be a leadership coach to professional women and women in business. And so along the way, I trained as a coach, and I eventually shut down my communications business and completely flipped it to be a leadership coach and business mentor for women in business and professional women. And while that first job, that first big step to resign from my corporate career was huge, I've been recorded many times saying there was a lot of crying on the couch, like letting go of your identity of that. This one was almost bigger because I was letting go of a lot of the things that I had been known for, like even all the things I'd gone to university for and everything. And I was doing something completely different and starting from scratch again in my early 40s. Yeah. And those are the questions I get from people, like, how did you get clients? And it was a journey. I kept applying a lot of the strategies that I had in my early successful business. But there's a saying, like, wherever you go, there you are. And if you're overwhelmed, you're making choices that are going to keep you being overwhelmed. And I found that I was plateauing under six figures, like not at six figures, but under six figures for many, many, many years, working my butt off all the time, wasn't making the money I wanted. I thought I was going to be able to live my life on my own terms, but I had traded one set of handcuffs for another.
Wow. Wait, that's super powerful. So you traded a set of handcuffs in corporate where you're just, you can't live that lifestyle anymore, to becoming self-employed. What I'm hearing is there wasn't enough cash flow. You were overwhelmed. And for years you were stuck at the same plateau. Not advancing. Was there a part of you that was like, is this even worth it? Were you doubting yourself?
Like, how many times? Be easier to get a job.
But we're unemployable once we start, right? I mean, like, I could never go back, right? So when did I meet you? I met you around this time, a year and a half ago?
A year and a half ago, I had not only had I plateaued in my communications business for many years, I had now transitioned it to a coaching business and have plateaued again.
Okay.
So always around the same level.
Okay. So what is it that made you say, I need some help here, instead of going back, instead of folding the business? What made you say, you know what, I'm actually going to look outside of myself for a new recipe?
Well, I had hired other coaches in the past, and what I noticed is that I had a pattern. Like, I love to build, but then I would kind of implode my success and rebuild again to that same level. And I really felt that I was being called to move beyond that. Also, I wanted to help more people, and I wanted to be able to do it in a way that I wasn't, busting my butt every day. And what connected me with you in particular, I have been following you for a while, but there was something I saw where I felt I could really trust you. I felt like we had really aligned values. I saw you leading in a way that I could really connect with. Like, you're strong, but yet feminine. Like, it didn't have to, like, yeah. So you love cooking. I love cooking. Like, that's okay. We're allowed to have other interests.
Yeah, I can be a woman and be successful too.
Right? We're allowed to love being a mom. We're allowed to love those things. And the other thing that I really connected with was your ability and passion to follow a big dream of moving from the United States to Paris.
What was it that inspired you about that for your own life?
Well, around the same time that I decided to become a coach and explore becoming a coach, I had also taken my family across the world from Canada to New Zealand, and we had spent 6 months there. And that was huge. And I always had a vision of doing that again. And when I came back from that adventure, I started this coaching business with a view to being location independent and be able to work from anywhere. And so when COVID hit, I was ready, but I was still here.
There's this big idea when people talk about, so as you know, we talk about scaling your business, leveraging your business to 1 million. This is what I teach, right? You follow the recipe, show up, follow the recipe. It's guaranteed to take you there when you implement. But it's not about the money. It's about increasing the impact, taking your work in the world, but also creating a really delicious life. And in not increasing because of greed, but more like, how good can I have it? And part of that delicious life is like, what is it that taking your business to 1 million while removing you from the day-to-day operations, and having your business continually grow without you being there, what will that afford you in terms of your life? And I always talk about freedom of time and freedom of location, right? So this whole idea of when you leverage every single aspect of your business so that you're only working 2 to 3 hours a day and you can take 14 weeks of vacation a year or more, mostly unplugged, what will that allow you to have? And it's that freedom of time and location. But when we first met, you weren't there yet. And so what could you share what was coming up for you back then?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just thinking there has to be another way. Like, and I invested like 3 summer days sitting in front of my computer to be with you at a retreat, and I loved it. I was so inspired. I was so inspired by the other women. I was so inspired to be surrounded by women who had a passion. And the other thing that really connected for me was it wasn't a competitive environment. Like, it was very supportive. People are perhaps competing with themselves because they want to give more, but it really is about service for your community and for the people who come to me as well. And really having a heart to be able to use your gifts to support others and being able to do that in a way that you enjoy, as well as helping women. For me, it's helping women create a life they love to live on their own terms,
Yeah.
while being successful.
I think we are still living in a very masculine entrepreneurial world, and if you think about it, we as a community of women, we haven't really been successfully self-employed for more than 30 or 50 years, right? I mean, just think about there weren't like women entrepreneurs en masse 50 or 70 years ago. So we're kind of like, still in the early stages. And we have been, up until recently, taking a page from the masculine way of growing business. And a lot of it has to do with competition, and a lot of it has to do with accumulation. Sorry, guys, I love ya, but I just want to do business a different way with love and inspiration and a very high quality of life, and giving back and leaning on my sisters, and while they lean on me, and doing really good work in the world. So I appreciate that you noticed that there is a different way of doing that. So let's fast forward a year and a half. So I've had the good fortune of knowing you and working with you closely for a year and a half. What has happened to your business? Understanding that we still have some ways to go to get you to $1 million with your life back, that freedom of time and location. What's happened in a year and a half? What would you be willing to share to inspire others on the journey?
Well, so much, really. Like, initially I was just diving into the content and figuring how it was going to fit. Like there's so much content, so many opportunities to tap in to support and resources with your community and with you. So once I had that figured out, I started taking some of your key things to heart right away. One big one was hire before you're ready. And having myself invest in quality team members before I was ready, like hire for the business you want, not the business you have. Like, dress for the business you want, not the one you have. And that alone allowed me to, like, I've passed that revenue ceiling now. So my business increased like 1.5 times.
Wow.
In a year.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Holy
by
cow.
Implementing some of these. I have systems and processes in place that I never had before. So now every time I want to run a program or run a special event, it doesn't feel really heavy. Like, we've got a system and process set up. We've done it before. I've got a team to help. Like, I launched my retreat last year while I was in Hawaii on holiday. Like, I wasn't even there. That was not even a year in to working with you.
It's really amazing just putting in some systems, just being willing to do some of the work, and so quickly you see a transformation. What else has happened?
I don't work at night anymore. So my girls will even say, my girls are older. Like, I've got a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old, but they noticed how much I was working. Like, when they were doing homework, I was doing homework. Like, I was working till 10 o'clock every night. It felt like I was always working. And I don't do that anymore. Now supper time comes, my family is home. I want to spend time with them.
How has that changed your family? How has that changed you as a woman?
Well, one of the big reasons why I went into business to begin with was to spend more time with them.
Yeah.
That was one of the points. And to have more connected relationships, and friendships too. Like, I have friendships now that I never had when I was in corporate. Like, I had work friends, but now I've got meaningful, cultivated friendships who are friends regardless of what we're doing. And that's the same for my family. Like, our relationships are better. There's always a way to go, but one year of not working at night doesn't change everything, but it sure has.
I think it has a profound effect, even though it might not feel like it on the surface. I'll tell you this: when I was growing my business, so I, like you, I had a baby in 2000, my first of 3 in 2003, and I was it's like my new business, my business coaching business was just really getting off the ground. And then, I took 5 months off with the baby. And then I was starting at ground zero once again. And I realized that I had to give up. I had to do triage, and friendships were not on the priority list. And I'm sad saying that because I love friendships. Like, they're such a rich part of my life. But for 10 plus years, I was so overwhelmed in my business. I had not leveraged my business. And so I had to say no to friendships, no to all these things until I realized there was another way. If you can leverage your team, if you can leverage your systems like you're describing, if you can leverage and get your time back, you can have room for dinner with your family. You can have room for friendships. You can have room for all the things that you love. It doesn't have to be or, it can be and.
It definitely can be and.
So you created some systems. Please just share your process so the person who's listening right now can take notes about what she can implement in her own business to get to, increase in a year and a half, increase by 1.5 times. That's significant, Susan.
And I took more time. I took a whole month off in the summer. Wow. A whole month. Twice, two times now since joining you. And I've never done that before.
So it was hiring for where you want to be. It was putting in some systems and processes so that things can happen without you.
I automated as much as I could. I started with things these systems you can hire, like a social media schedule, right? Easy to put in. You sit down and you do it once a week or what have you and put it in. Well, now I have a team that records it for me, and I Susanize it, as you say, Fabianize it. I Susanize it.
Yeah.
But they do it for me with my voice, and it sounds like me, and it is me. It's my words that I wrote another time, or it's my face. So the first easy one that I used to support, I hired a VA, and we both did a training together around social media, and she was able to do that for me. And that took hours out of my week. I didn't have to worry about that piece. The second big hire I did was an online business manager. And she really got me organized. She was the one who would take, like when we did something, say we're launching an event, she will capture all of the things we did and put it into a process so that next year we just take it and put it in the system, say, this is what we have to do. And how can we improve this from last year, right? We do the Groundhog Day. I call them postmortems, where you, look at what went well and then what didn't, and do more of what went well.
Yeah.
But those are the big ones. Like they created a lot of freedom for me.
It's really amazing what happens when you can just put a couple things in place and increase your business by 1.5 times. And I mean, there's still stuff for you to implement, right? Because, we've only gone through a certain portion of the recipe, the roadmap. What do you think is possible for you in another 1.5 years?
Well, we are looking at going location independent later this year, planning to take the whole family on a gap year. Both our girls are graduating from university and high school, and we're very conscious that they're going to be gone soon, potentially.
Yeah.
So we're going to create an opportunity for us all to work in another country. And I'm taking my business with me. My clients don't have to see anything having changed. All that's changing is where I am, not the services I offer.
Yeah, in the Leverage Your Lifestyle Activator, we talk about being location independent and freedom of time and location, and giving your using your business to create the lifestyle that you want. Now, there are people who create lifestyle businesses, but they're usually making like $50K. I don't know, depends. But you can have a business that makes $500,000 and runs without you, and live where you want to live, and then create these opportunities for rich living. And what I mean by rich living is like doing all the things you want to do and not waiting until you're 65 or 70 for retirement to live a delicious life, you know?
And I would say, I really feel in many ways I have lived a delicious life. And I'm so grateful for the time I had with my girls when they were younger that I wouldn't have had. I mean, I might not have made all the money, but I was able to certainly replace my corporate income while enjoying more time freedom with them. And now that they're almost gone, well, or you know, more independent, I can focus more on this and take my business to the next level.
What is it that you felt the support that you feel you've gotten, or the tools or the people that have helped you? Because I often speak about this because it seems to be a universal thing that especially women, though I think all humans, talk themselves out of big ideas and big opportunities when they're in isolation. Isolation breeds self-doubt. How has being supported or championed helped you show up differently for yourself in your business and create rather outstanding results?
So being surrounded by others who are doing it as well and being able to ask them, but also being privy to their, let's call them failures, but not necessarily failures, but their challenges.
Right.
Because when you have challenges, and we all do, you can feel like, oh, what are they doing that I'm not? How come I can't do this? What am I doing wrong? And then you talk to other people and go, okay, they did the same thing I did, or we all hit this bump, like, or we all think about it. Like a lot of the self-talk is shared. It's just not usually shared out loud.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't.
Yeah. I'm hearing there's a level of transparency where there's not so much posturing, like, oh, I've got it all figured out. And from that, you can all be vulnerable. You can share. You can learn from other people's best practices and also the things that didn't work so well for them so that you can avoid doing that. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely right. And give you resources. Like, hey, I tried this. I tried that.
Yeah.
Worked for me.
That extreme generosity of, here, I use this, it works. Go ahead, use it too. I'm very aware of that. There is, in other communities, there is this idea of competition.
Mm-hmm.
And who can win, kind of like this, let's play Monopoly, and there can only be one winner. That's the point of the game. And how there are other communities where this concept is flipped on its head, and it's more like, we're all playing this game, and we are all going to win.
I love that.
Right? So, Susan, here, you need this, take it, because you're going to win and I'm going to win. And then somebody will say, Fabienne, I've won with this. Now here, you take it and you win. And we're all around the Monopoly board and we're all winning. And nobody,
we all have the hotels.
We all got the little red hotels, right? And this idea of like, why, to me, it does not sound good to win if my sisters are not winning with me too. However cheesy that sounds. I get somebody could be like thinking that's cheesy, but I actually really believe like, hey, here, hold my hand. Let's go. You can have a business that scales continually every year and runs without you being in the day-to-day operations of it. And you can earn 1.5 times more in just a year or so, and you can stop working on evenings and weekends, and you can take a month or two off, and you can live where you want to, and you can And the idea that this is not available to you, I'm speaking to you, lovely woman who's listening to us. The idea that that's not possible or not available to you is just old thinking. That's an old paradigm. It comes from a competitive other way of doing things. Like, we can all have it all, whatever all means to us, just like Susan is sharing. And Susan, you're in just a few years, you will be at 7 figures. It's,
wow.
Yeah, you will. And it's just about continuing being on the road, right? With all these navigators in place. Just you have the roadmap, you've got people in the front seat with you, you got navigators in place, you're not alone, so you're not talking yourself out, you got people in the back seat making it fun. Let's go! Road trip! And we can all win the game. And you're proving that. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your transformation, your journey in progress, because there are people listening right now who would not have thought that everything you've created thus far is possible for them. And so I deeply appreciate you sharing. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you for having me.